Without a doubt, you can't talk about great metal bands from the past 20 years without mentioning Trivium. Since releasing their phenomenal album Ascendancy in 2005, they've gone on to become one of the biggest acts in modern metal. They've backed up this album with other great albums such as Shogun and In Waves. Their latest album, Silence in the Snow, sees them return to Australian shores, which will see them play in Melbourne at 170 Russell on the 19th of April. I'm joined by the band's bassist, Paolo. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm great. So, what have the band been up to recently since the album's been released?
We've been doing a lot of touring in the States. This is our second tour. We're just about to finish. We're on our last week of a 6.5-week tour. Just been traveling a lot. You know, we haven't really been overseas too much. We did a show in Mexico, a couple shows in Europe in August, but you know, this next run coming up is going to be our first time getting over to support the new album, and we're stoked that we can get back to Australia so soon.
What's the best part about for you guys for coming back to Australia when you come on tour?
I mean, it's definitely become one of our favorite spots, you know, to just, aside from the shows, like, it's awesome food, a lot to do. Melbourne's amazing. I think that's our favorite city. Yeah. Like, when it comes to, like, food and stuff to do. It's like playing a show, but also being kind of a tourist at the same time. I mean, that's the best part about it.
Now, I've watched some live videos of you guys through the years, and at Wacken Open Air, you had some sort of set pieces when you played there a couple of years ago. Just want to know how much work goes into your live show, and are there any other factors in there that make it expensive bringing it to other countries?
Yeah, well, the stuff that we have in Europe, you know, it definitely is a pretty good amount of money to make every time. I mean, that really started not as much a little bit. I mean, we've always had to make, like, backdrops and stuff, but when we started doing a little bit more of the set pieces for the festivals, then it started costing a lot more money. So since Vintage Falls, you know, every time you kind of want to do something a little different. But it's kind of like a necessary investment, just like our gear. You know, we invest in it. We make sure we have the best stuff, the best sound. And, you kind of work within that. Getting stuff like that overseas, though, like shipping it from Europe or maybe the States, definitely be pretty pricey, but it's kind of, you know, part of the game, and you got to, when you can do it, if you can, you know, it's definitely worth it. So I hope one day to do a tour in Australia with, like, the full setup that we have, like, overseas in Europe. But, you know, we'll get there when we get there.
As we were just talking about before, you know, how you guys like about coming to Australia, what do you guys do on tour to keep it interesting now? So I think you guys did Mayhem last year, was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Matt...
I think so.
Yeah. So you were playing some sort of festival run in the US, and I saw Matt does jiu-jitsu every day before the show. So what do you guys kind of do on tour to keep it interesting?
I mean, the usual thing we'll do is, you know, as the tour goes on, we get up later and later, but we still try to get breakfast. And I think the States, in my opinion, we got breakfast down to a science here. It's ridiculous. So we're always trying to look for a good diner. We'll usually do a dinner earlier in the evening before the show if we can. And that's like two things we do. And then working out, you know, whether it's, we carry a lot of workout gear with us. Matt does his jiu-jitsu as well. Sometimes when we go find a gym, find something to do outside of that, or just walk around, you know. I think it's important to kind of keep your sanity, to have things that are always in place every day that you do, have a schedule. And to me, it makes touring go by so much faster. If I just sat on the bus all day and just did nothing, or I would just go crazy, you know. I like to read a lot as well, so that helps me just get rid of time.
Now, on your latest album, there was definitely more of a melodic feel, especially since Matt decided to just do clean singing. What was the thought process and the decision behind that?
Well, we started writing the music maybe like a year before we actually recorded. And once we decided we were going to take the song Silence in the Snow from the demos from Shogun and rework it, we decided we were going to make an album around that song. Cool. Like, so songs that fit into that vibe. It just kind of became... It was kind of a weird set of events. Like, one, we had Matt have the problem, like, he just kind of, his voice just got really worn down, and we had to cancel some shows. Thankfully, it was nothing serious. It was just fatigue. But he started having to not relearn how to sing, just better techniques with singing, preservation of the voice.
Yeah, upgrade
as well as, you know, with the screaming, he had to relearn from the ground up a new technique to do it, which has actually been something that now he can do live again, which is something we couldn't do for a while. So it was kind of a weird thing, and we decided with this record when we were making the songs, we're like, that was going to be the challenge for us. Can we do a record without the screaming? Will it still have intensity? Will it still be powerful? Can we make songs, you know, just as good without it and not having that as kind of a crutch when you just feel like you don't have a way to tie parts together? So that was the challenge, and we just were like, let's do it. Let's stick with it. Let's not, you know, back away from that challenge. And there was even points in the record where the producer, Elvis, was kind of like, do we want to do a scream? Do we need to do screams here or there? And we were just kind of, we felt confident with what we had, and that was kind of where we went with the record. We were going to let that be the record's.
I know the album only came out last year, but are you guys planning to work on any new material soon?
I mean, we always write stuff, so we don't have like a set time that we start to write new material. It's like probably the first new thing I wrote was like before we even had the album mixed. You know, it's just always constantly, like, if I'm home and I'm near a guitar or my bass, it's hard not to, like, start doing something. Not even like that I do it with the intent of it making a record. I'll just start writing. So we always have tons of stuff. What happens is we start to just kind of whittle down on the, you know, stuff, what we need, what's really good, what's not. And then once we kind of figure out what the goal of the record is, then we start to really focus. So probably going to be a bit, but, I mean, we're always working on stuff. We're always talking about ideas, and I've heard, like, you know, I know some bands, like, they will just not think about new stuff until it's time. For us, we're, like, always a couple steps ahead of the game, trying to, like, think of what we want to do next.
Another thing I've noticed is that the touring cycles between albums are, like, 2 years now instead of 4 years. Is album cycles are short? Are you planning to release more albums in the next 5 years, or is it just happened to be that the album cycles are just 2 years?
Yeah, I think we just kind of came into like that being the comfortable number for us for the most part. I mean, I can't say that we won't maybe someday take a little bit longer of a break, but it works well with, you know, the playing places and how many times you can really go back to some place without a new record, you know, and that's kind of counts. I mean, in the States, you can probably get away with touring the States maybe a couple times because you can play so many different places. But, I mean, you know, it'd be tough to maybe come down to Australia like 2 or 3 times on the same record. I don't think that'd be possible. So we kind of feel like it's like a natural thing. We've never been like it's going to be 2 years exactly. It seems to have kind of worked into that time frame for the most part for most of the records.
You guys became pretty successful at a young age. In your opinion, what is a common mistake that young bands make that they really shouldn't be doing?
They don't have people that they can confide in and listen to, like the right kind of manager or booking agent. Or sometimes I think, you know, and even in the beginning, I know for us, like when you're young, you kind of have that vibe of you know it all. And you're, you know, what kind of I think makes like bands great in the beginning is it's that, you know, we're going to take over the world, we're going to do this and that, and you need to have that steady guiding hand there that's like, hey, I back what you guys want to do, but this is kind of how it's going to have to be, and, you know, always keeping that in check. And we've been very lucky. We've had a very solid team around us, and if I can give advice to any bands or any people, it's just like get people that you trust, that you know have good advice, and stick with them through everything. You know, that when things get tough, that's when you're going to know, you know, who's there. And if someone's going to stay with you through tough times, then, I mean, you know, they're perfect for the great times. And that's a big mistake I see bands make. They change up things too much. Keep things as consistent as possible as you possibly can.
The recent passing with Lemmy from Motorhead, a lot of those, you know, bigger type of metal bands that we see headlining festivals like Donington and in the UK and all of that, a lot of people have been starting to say, you know, who's going to step up into this spot when they, you know, go in 10, 15 years from now? Do you
Yeah.
believe Trivium can step up and become a headlining act, say, for example, play the headline stage at Donington on a Friday?
I think for us, I mean, I know that when it comes to the live show, I feel like we're always so dedicated to making it bigger and better. And we've been very fortunate to have the chance to headline some festivals like Bloodstock and stuff like that. But, you know, it's kind of something that you earn, and your band has to connect. You have to have the right albums. They have to resonate. But for us, it's always been about the long term. And I think, I mean, a band like Motorhead is a great example of, you know, it's a long game, and you have to keep playing it. You have to keep building. And, I mean, the last show that Motorhead played was a packed arena in Berlin, you know, and if that's not a testament to, like, the long term and what it takes to be a band playing rock and metal, I mean, then I don't know what is. And so I can't say with certainty that we would be that, but I know that we have it in us that we're going to push to make the best records and the best live show, that if the day ever came, then we would definitely be more than ready. So, you know, hopefully, it's definitely a dream, but you got to let fate decide that.
Well, thank you for talking to us today, mate. We look forward to seeing you when you come down to Melbourne.
Thanks, man.
Cool. Catch you later, mate.
We're stoked, man. Thank you.
Cool. See you
Have
later.
a good one.
You too, mate. Bye.
Hey, this is Paolo from Trivium. You're listening to the Moshpit on Sin.